911. What's your emergency? The dispatcher asks calmly. On the other end of the line, a sharp, shaky voice answers, I'd like to report a suspicious man in my neighborhood. That voice belongs to Linda Rodriguez, a white woman in her 50s. But here's the thing. Linda doesn't even live on this street. She doesn't know the family who owns that house, and she certainly doesn't know the man she's pointing fingers at. That man is Pastor Michael Adams, who doesn't live there either. He was simply doing a favor for the Johnsons, longtime members of his church who were away on vacation. They had asked him to swing by, pick up a package left on their porch, and hold on to it until they returned. So while Michael parked his car, walked up the driveway, and carefully lifted the box into his arms, Linda, who was just passing through, saw him and instantly decided she was witnessing a crime. In her mind, she wasn't looking at a pastor fulfilling a promise. She concluded that she was watching a thief in action. But let's rewind just a few hours earlier. At home, Pastor Michael Adams was stretched out on his couch, laughing at the TV when his phone buzzed. He picked it up to hear the voices of Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, two longtime friends and faithful members of his church. They were away on vacation, and their tone carried urgency. They asked him for a favor. Since he knew their house and it wasn't far from his, could he please grab a package that had been delivered to their porch before someone else got to it? Michael smiled warmly. Of course. I'll head over this afternoon, he told them. Later that day, he drove down to Willow Creek Road, parked, and walked calmly to the Johnsons' porch. He bent down, lifted the medium-sized brown package, and thought nothing of it. It was supposed to be an in-and-out favor, the kind of small kindness pastors live for. But his simple errand was interrupted. Just across the street, Linda Rodriguez spotted him. She didn't know Michael. She didn't even know the Johnsons. Yet her eyes narrowed with suspicion the moment she saw a black man holding a box. Without hesitation, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. I'd like to report a suspicious man in my neighborhood, she whispered into the phone. Unaware of her call, Michael turned back toward his car, package in hand. But before he could take a step off the porch, Linda stormed toward him, barking, Hey! Excuse me. Excuse me. Michael, ever calm, turned with a polite smile. Good morning. Beautiful day out, isn't it? He greeted warmly. But Linda ignored his civility. She snapped sharply, Hey! What are you doing with that package? Michael adjusted the package in his arms and answered politely, I'm just taking it to my car. Linda folded her arms, glaring at him as though she were the self-appointed sheriff of the block. Why? You don't live here, she barked. Michael raised an eyebrow, then calmly asked, Do you know the people who live here? Linda hesitated, then admitted, No, but I'm certain it isn't you. Michael blinked in disbelief. And how do you know that? He asked, trying to keep his tone measured. Linda lifted her chin proudly and spat out words that stung like venom. Because this is a nice neighborhood, and people like you don't belong here. Besides, there's no way you could afford a home in this area. If you believe no one should be treated like a criminal just because they're black, and doing a simple favor like picking up a package, then make sure to like this video. Alan, tell us in the comments where you're watching from right now. The package grew heavier in Michael's hands, not because of its weight, but because now he understood exactly what this was. He straightened his shoulders and said firmly, Ma'am, I think it's time for you to go home now. But Linda wasn't backing down. She stepped into his path, blocking him like a gatekeeper. I'm not going anywhere until you explain what you're doing with that package. Michael sighed, deciding honesty might calm her. I'm picking it up for the people who live here. They're away, and they asked me to grab their package. Linda let out a mocking laugh. How do I know you're telling me the truth? For all I know, you could be stealing it. Michael nodded slowly. You know what? Fair point. How about I give them a call right now, and they can confirm it for you directly? But Linda shook her head in disgust. Oh, come on, you'll probably just ring up one of your thug friends and have them pretend. What is this, some sort of drug deal? Because that's all people like you ever do. That was the last straw for Michael. He turned, clutching the package tighter. All right, I'm done with this discussion. You have a nice day. But Linda rushed ahead of him, her voice rising. No, absolutely not. I'm not letting you walk off with that package. No chance. She whipped out her phone, pointing it in his face while blocking his way. I'm recording you to show everyone that you're stealing from a nice white family. Michael, still keeping his composure, said firmly, Mom, stop that. Get your phone out of my face. Linda shoved her phone closer, the camera nearly grazing Michael's face as she declared, Oh, what's wrong? Scared of being exposed? Michael stood firm, his voice calm but edged with frustration. No, I just don't want you shoving your phone in my face. But Linda wasn't finished. She tugged at the package, trying to drag it from his hands while narrating into her camera. I'm at 123 Willow Creek Road, and this man is trying to steal a package. I repeat, this man is stealing. Michael tightened his grip and spoke through clenched teeth. Mom, back off and quit it. But Linda shot back. No, I won't. His patience thinning, Michael pleaded. Please, just leave me alone. Linda stamped her foot and barked. No! Put that package down. I won't let you get away with this. Michael finally pulled harder, dragging the box away from her grasp. Get away from me, he commanded sharply. Linda staggered to the side, letting out an exaggerated scream. Oh my God! Oh my God! She shrieked, before looking straight into her phone's camera. Did everyone see that? This black guy just assaulted me. Michael stared at her in disbelief. Mom, I didn't assault you. I barely even touched you. Before the situation could escalate further, flashing lights appeared at the end of the street. A police cruiser rolled up, tires crunching against the pavement. Linda's fake tears dried instantly, replaced by a smirk, as she says, You're finished. I already called the cops and they're going to arrest you. Officer Chris Davis, a white man in his 30s, parked his car and watched the scene unfold for a moment. He muttered under his breath, This ought to be interesting, before stepping out. He approached cautiously and announced, Afternoon, got a call about some suspicious activity in the area. Linda, still lying on the ground as if she were injured, clutched her side and whimpered, Oh, officer, I'm so glad you arrived. Can you give me a hand getting up? Officer Davis extended his hand, helping her to her feet. She leaned against him dramatically and said, Thanks. You all right? The officer asked. No, Linda replied quickly, jabbing her finger at Michael. This black man attacked me and pushed me to the ground. Michael held up a hand in protest. Officer, that's not true. I never touched her. I didn't shove her at all. Linda raised her voice, pointing an accusing finger. Yes, you did. I was only trying to stop him from stealing a package off the porch, and he assaulted me. Officer Davis turned toward Michael, his expression steady but questioning. Sir, is that what happened? Michael shook his head and lifted the package slightly. Officer, let me explain. I'm just picking up this package for the homeowners. But Linda cut him off, shouting, Don't listen to him. Just arrest him already. Officer Davis raised a hand to calm her, then looked back at Michael. Do you have any proof of what you're saying, sir? Michael nodded quickly. Yes, let me set the package down so I can show you. He bent carefully, lowering the box to the ground, but Officer Davis's tone sharpened. Because if you can't, I'll have to take you downtown for questioning. Michael straightened, holding his phone up. Officer, I do have proof, right here on my phone. He tapped the screen and held it out. I just got a text from Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, the couple who actually live here. Linda crossed her arms, scoffing. That text doesn't prove anything, officer. It could have come from anyone. What matters is I caught him in the act. He's nothing but a criminal. Officer Davis ignored her for the moment and leaned closer to read the message on Michael's phone. His brow softened as he murmured, Seems to check out. Michael gave a small sigh of relief, then says to Linda, Ma'am, I'm not a criminal. I'm a pastor. Linda laughed bitterly, her face twisting. Oh, sure, like anyone's going to buy that story. You don't look like a pastor. You're too black to be a pastor. Officer Davis turned sharply toward her. Ma'am, I need you to take a step back and relax, and allow me to do my job, please. Michael stood tall, meeting the officer's eyes. Officer, I promise you, I'm telling the truth. I'm the pastor at Grace Chapel. The officer tilted his head. All right, do you have any identification with you? Michael reached into his pocket without hesitation. Yes, sir. Here it is. He handed his ID over. Officer Davis glanced at the card. Then his expression changed with recognition. Michael Adams. Oh, Michael Adams. You're the one who runs the homeless food drive, right? Michael smiled faintly. Yes, sir, that's me. Linda's eyes widened in disbelief as Officer Davis recognized Michael. She shook her head furiously. He doesn't even look like a pastor. Just look at him. He's clearly lying to you. But Officer Davis's tone hardened. Ma'am, I already asked you to calm down. Please let me do my job. Linda scoffed and waved her arms. I can't believe you're falling for this nonsense. Officer Davis stood his ground. This isn't nonsense. I've heard of him. He's done some great work for this community. And we're grateful. Linda's face twisted with rage. Grateful? You think he's helping the community? More like lying and stealing from honest white families. That was the final straw. Officer Davis's voice turned firm, commanding. All right, Mom, that's enough. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're becoming far too aggressive. Linda's jaw dropped. So you're not going to arrest him? She asked in shock. The officer answered clearly. No, I am not. Michael exhaled in relief and extended his hand. Thank you, officer. Officer Davis shook his hand firmly, but Linda was far from finished. She stomped her foot like a child denied candy. This is outrageous. Arrest this criminal right now. Officer Davis's tone carried finality. This gentleman hasn't done anything wrong. Now, please leave. Linda spun on her heel, muttering bitterly. Fine, but you're making a huge mistake, officer. This isn't over. Then Officer Davis turned back to Pastor Michael and spoke calmly. Pastor, let me just radio this in to dispatch. Give me a moment. Michael gave a respectful nod and replied, Of course. Thank you. Then Officer Davis started walking down toward his patrol car. But just then, as Linda stalked away, her eyes darted and her expression darkened. She whispered to herself, You know what? If the police won't protect this neighborhood from monsters like him, then I'll take matters into my own hands. Her hand dipped into her handbag, and she pulled out a black taser. With a crazed determination, she rushed back toward Michael. Michael stepped back, startled. What are you doing? Wait, he shouted. Linda's eyes blazed as she pointed the taser at him. You're no pastor. You're a fraud, and I need to protect this neighborhood from black thieves like you. Michael raised his palms desperately. Stop it, I swear I'm telling the truth. But Linda lunged forward, sneering. No, you're not. You're nothing but a fake. She jammed the taser against his stomach, sending painful shocks through his body. Michael cried out, collapsing to his knees as electricity coursed through him. From behind, Officer Davis spun around, eyes widening. Hey, what are you doing? He yelled, sprinting toward her. Officer Chris Davis lunged forward, grabbing Linda's wrist before she could press the taser into Michael again. Drop it, ma'am. Drop it right now, he barked. Linda twisted wildly, eyes wide with indignation. Wait, what? I'm not the one breaking the law here, officer. But Davis wasn't fooled. He yanked the taser out of her grip and snapped cuffs onto her wrists. Ma'am, you're under arrest. You're coming with me for assault. Stop resisting. Linda kicked and squirmed like a child throwing a tantrum. Get your hands off me. You can't arrest me, she screamed. Officer Davis pulled her toward the cruiser with firm resolve. Yes, I can. Linda shrieked louder, digging her heels into the pavement. I want a lawyer. I'll sue this entire police department, and you'll regret this, officer. But Davis shoved her gently but firmly into the back seat of his car, shutting the door with a heavy thud. With Linda secured, he hurried back to Michael, who was hunched over and still catching his breath from the shock. Davis bent down, extending a steady hand. Pastor Adams, are you all right? Michael grimaced, gripping the officer's arm for support as he rose to his feet. I can't believe she did that, he said, his voice shaky. Davis guided him carefully toward the curb. Do you need medical attention? Michael shook his head slowly, still wincing. No, I'll be fine. Just give me a moment to breathe. The officer nodded and then asked gently, Would you like to press charges against her? You'd be well within your rights. Michael stared at the ground, conflicted. Finally, he sighed deeply. No, I won't. Maybe she needs therapy more than she needs prison. I don't want to carry anger in my heart. Officer Davis studied him, clearly impressed. We'll still look into her matter. But I promise you this, the police department won't stand for acts of discrimination and racism like what you just went through. Michael managed a tired but sincere smile. Thank you, officer. Davis gave him a firm nod. It's my duty, and it's the right thing to do. As Michael turned to retrieve the Johnson's package from where it sat on the porch, Linda's muffled shouts echoed from the back of the cruiser, but her words no longer carried any weight. For the first time that day, Michael felt a measure of peace. If you believe no one should ever be harassed simply for the color of their skin, then make sure you like this video and subscribe to Story Arc for more stories like this one.